But there's a point where you need to have the courage to go out there and risk it a little bit and help other people, and show up to serve others, not for yourself, and also to allow that bigger part of yourself to kind of be channeled through so you can affect other people's consciousness. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Conscious Marketer podcast. Richard here, joined by Kylie. Hi, Kylie.
Hey.
And today we want to talk about a little bit about referrals and why they're so important, and then also how a referral could actually become something that could actually be weighing you down or an Achilles heel. And let me just pre-frame this by saying that, I myself have built my business on referrals through the years. And Kylie, I think you have too. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I had one good result for one person. And after that, it was just referral.
Yeah. So if you create results for a specific clientele, an avatar and a client, and then you get a referral, often if you get one person, sometimes it can become like a network spreader, where one person's connected to everybody. And then once you're known, all of a sudden your time and business fills up. And then you just keep stringing along wins and performing and creating results for clients. Really, especially as a solopreneur, you really don't need to do a lot of marketing if you just want to be a solopreneur and you just want to run your business off of referrals. But I know a lot of people that are listening to this right now, Kylie, the idea of running a business by themselves probably A, feels a little bit lonely, and then B, could also be a little bit limiting. It doesn't have to be, like if you choose that consciously, I think it's fine, and I think there is a point where somebody's like, I want to make a bigger impact. I want to do more in the world. And that's where kind of relying on referrals can actually hurt you a little bit, because it almost becomes a badge of honor. Like, oh, I haven't had to do any marketing. I grew my business through referrals. And then you kind of fall behind because you don't get in the zone of publishing as often. You don't build your audience. You might even not even have an email list. You could build a small business just off of a small group of clients. And then the other thing I said is sometimes I'll see, and I've had this happen at various points in my career where like one client is like 50% of your business or more, sometimes even more. And then all of a sudden that client's like, we're going to bring it in-house now. We don't need your services anymore, even though you just made me $100,000 or $1 million, or it's super interesting. Sometimes clients just move on, and it's not because of poor performance. It's just because they want to shift in direction. But all of a sudden, like, your income could go from whatever you're doing to could almost go to zero, and it could literally like affect your livelihood. So there's something also about building a business that's resilient to one or two clients. And sometimes those that have built their business through referrals have a large percentage of their business with like one or two clients. And so there's a risk factor there. Have you ever had that happen to you, Kylie, where like you had like one client that was like at least 50% of your business?
I had two that was 70% of my business, and I lost them in the same 24-hour period. And I cried so hard. It was like the worst thing, but actually turned out to be really interesting because
I'm laughing here, which I shouldn't be laughing, but I'm like,
don't laugh at my
pain. I'm like,
pain.
oh, that's terrible, because I've had it happen too,
Yeah, it was awful. I had two copywriting clients, and I loved them and they loved me, and we had a great time working together, but they took a dive in their sales and they couldn't afford to pay me anymore. And again, with a copywriter, it's like you can hire someone outside of the team, or you can try and do it yourself when you're tight on cash. And I think that that's what they did. So, and then the same person came back to me. One of them came back to me years later when I was already with Conscious Marketer, and was like, if you ever leave that agency, please let us know. And I was like, why? Is he going to fire me again? It's not going to happen. And it was actually very interesting. This is a total side note. I got really upset. I remember I was in the Starbucks parking lot crying, and I called somebody and I asked them for advice, and I prayed about it. And the answer I got was like, don't do anything about this right now. And the message I got from the universe was like, just be a good daughter right now. That's your job. And I had a plane ticket to go to North Carolina to see my family. And so I was like, okay, let me not get any new clients. And I went, and I didn't have anything to do for like the first time I was with my family. I had nothing to do. So I was hanging out with my parents, and my dad told me that he had a tumor on his kidney the size of a golf ball.
Oh no.
And all of a sudden I was actually able to be there for him because I didn't have anything else to do. And so it worked out. It worked out in my favor. And then when I got back home, I got a couple of other really great clients that made up for that income. But taking that 70% loss in one day is really, really painful. It was so hard. It was heartbreaking. And I was really, really scared. I did replace them. And again, I replaced them on referrals, which was great. However, it's not scalable. So it helped in the short term, but it's not scalable in the long term. I was kind of stuck in the curse of the solopreneur, going from client to client. And with copywriting in particular, that's very difficult, because for every client that you have to have, the more clients that you have to have, the harder it really is, because you have to do all that research. So for what I do in particular, I have to know people's businesses inside and out. Now that I'm writing copy primarily for our programs, it's super easy because I don't have to get in different people's heads every time I go to write. And so that is more scalable because it takes less of my time. So I think in not relying on those referrals got me out of the curse of the solopreneur. So that was good. So anyways, that was just like a side point about getting completely sideswiped in one day and having it turn out okay, but it doesn't always turn out okay.
Well, I think part of it is like the types of referrals. So like I'm kind of pulling out three main points here, because if you have a business that maybe has fewer clients, maybe you serve fewer clients, you can be at risk of that client leaving, and a significant portion of your business going away. But if you have a different model, you might have 1,000 clients, and you want every one of those clients to be referring clients to you, so it's not like we're against referrals. First of all, we think referrals are extremely important. It's more that if you're leaning into referrals, then and there's two things. One is if you're not getting in front of additional people or scaling, then that's one thing. And then let's just talk about that a little bit, because a lot of people want to make a bigger impact, but what that really means is you need to reach more people. And so like a classic example would be if you're, say, a therapist, or you're running, maybe you're a teacher, like a local teacher, and all your time is filled up. And so if all your time is filled up, it would be easy to say, well, I'm filling everything through referrals. I don't need additional business. But the truth is what you need to look at is, kind of the underlying business model. So rather than doing just one-on-one work, there's another reality where maybe you could be reaching tens of thousands of people with a group program or with some kind of movement you created online. And to do that, then you have to, be building your email list. You have to be publishing online, or building relationships in the market, with other creators that have networks and other people on their list that they would share with you. And so when the business is maxed out, I think one of the things is to look at is what's the business model behind it. And often what you'll see is like, oh yeah, this business model is tapped out. I'm totally full. And sometimes when I meet creators like this, they're really successful. But part of them actually doesn't want to market. And the reason they don't want to market is interesting. They don't want to market because they're working so hard already. Like they're working like every hour of the day. And they're like, I don't need more marketing. I have referrals. But it's more so that they don't have a leveraged business model. And a leveraged business model would be either a higher end program or a group program or a membership site, things like that, where with one offer, you don't want your delivery to be limited by your personal time on a one-to-one basis. Then you have a business model problem. You have to solve that problem first. And then once you solve that problem, which is kind of what we do inside either our agency or some of our programs, once you solve how to, scale and create a program that's leverageable, then the kind of the aversion to marketing can go away, or at least one of the aversions to marketing. There's probably more than one. but the aversion to adding more clients and draining your energy, or because you're already at capacity, you're like, look, I don't want to do more marketing because it's just I don't even have time to serve the people I have. So you got to solve that problem. Once you solve that problem, then you have to overcome the barriers to actually liking getting online and marketing that, which can be hard. But if you're already maxed out capacity, you see how you can make an excuse. You can say, well, I don't have time to market and I'm already full, so I don't need to do any of that. And then what happens is you're actually limiting the number of people you can reach. You're limiting your impact. And in the end, you're also limiting the income you can make, which you could be reinvesting in the market, or you can be giving to a charity, or you can be funding your family's legacy, or there's like a lot of ways you can use wealth,
Yeah, so I think it's really a question of reach. If you want to go from client to client to client to client, you're staying in a little bit of a hamster wheel. You could make multiple six figures doing that. I did. But it's really about reach, like Richard was saying, and how many people that you want to help. When I joined the agency, we had a lot more sophisticated marketing, and my emails have probably reached hundreds of thousands of people as opposed to 10,000 or 20,000 with the other clients I was working with. But my ads have been seen because we have an ad agency that we work with. And so my ads have been seen by a lot more people. My emails have been seen by a lot more people, and I'm able to get my message out to a lot more people. We've put 2,000 people through our programs in the last year or so. And on my own, I was happy with 40 people in my program or 100 people in my program. And now we've touched the lives of 2,000 people. And a lot of them come back to me with private messages and personal emails and things of that nature, just telling me how amazing things have gotten in their business. So it's really about impact too. I don't want you to think about funnel building or marketing or publishing content or doing all those things as a burden on your business. It's actually just a painful growth point that you have to go through in order to have the impact that you're here to have. And you don't have to do it all alone. I think that's something as a solopreneur, I was like trying to do my own books, and I was trying to make all my Facebook posts, and I was trying to do all my emails and just everything I was doing by myself. But when you start to make that leap into a more scalable model where you're not like feast or famine, client to client to client, then you also get the resources to hire out some of those things. And I think the first hire that you want to have is a personal assistant or a virtual assistant, so they can take a lot of that stuff off your plate and you can focus more on what you love to do, which is delivering services to your clients. But it's a matter of, do you want to serve one client at a time, or do you want to serve 50 clients at a time? Or like one of our courses right now, Your Story Matters, we're serving 500 clients at one time. And that's because we were able to leverage the power of other people's audiences. And that's a whole nother topic that we've done podcast interviews on already. But once you start to grow and scale like that, there's a lot of opportunities there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think this increase in impact is definitely, it's almost like compounding impact, because I think a lot of people listening to this have some idea, and part of it is, I think, honoring the referrals and the results you're getting, but then there's this niggle that you're meant for something greater. Maybe we should name this like the conscious niggle or the great niggle. It doesn't like mean anything, but it kind of does, because it's that thing that you've silently been thinking about in the back of your mind for like 10 years or 20 years, something you've wanted to do. For some people, it's like start a retreat center or run their own coffee shop or write the book or speak on stage or do a documentary, like we did a couple of years ago. We helped Science and Non-Duality organization, Zai and Maurizio. They had created a documentary for The Wisdom of Trauma with Gabor Mate, and we took the marketing load to get that out into the world. And that movie's been seen by 10 million people and translated into, I think, 30 or plus languages. And so it's legacy work for that system, that thing. And if it, like, Gabor Mate is very successful and has, compassion inquiry, but the movies enabled him to reach so many more people. But he had to kind of get in the front of the camera and basically build an email list through the documentary is how it happened. And then it started to spread. So that's exciting. That's just one example. We probably have another 10 we could share. It doesn't necessarily happen overnight, but when you do put the work in, it creates lasting impact. So, but it does require that you step in front of your brand a bit more. And I think what's interesting is I always say one of my favorite sayings is your higher self doesn't have imposter syndrome. I've been saying that a little bit on social media and some of my posts recently. In the Course of Miracles, it talks about how your higher self or your soul or whatever you want to call it, it wants to shine. It wants to get in front of the camera. It wants to share and help and spread, bring light into the world. It's actually the ego that wants to hide a bit more. It's the ego that doesn't, you don't have to say ego. It's just there are parts of ourselves that are trying to keep us safe, which is fine. But there's a point where you need to have the courage to go out there and risk it a little bit and, help other people, and show up to serve others, not for yourself. And also to allow that bigger part of yourself to kind of be channeled through so you can affect other people's consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And then just really starting small too, not thinking you've got to be the one funnel away challenge and win it, or not feeling like you've got to build up this massive empire. It's just a matter of scalability. And what I mean by that is simply just affecting more people with the same amount of effort. So we don't want you to trip up all over yourself trying to move forward with some of this, but putting in that homeopathic dose, like what's the least amount of work and effort I can put in to get the maximum results. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with it. It's like, how do you scale? How do you reach more people without burning yourself out and working 70 hours a week? Like, that's not really where we're going with all of this.
Yeah. If anything, as you increase your lists and increase your size, I'd say that as you move away from say a limited group of referrals to a larger group of referrals, I mean, like a movie like The Wisdom of Trauma, it only spreads because people are recommending it. It's almost like you want, rather than one big referral, you want a lot of micro referrals from greater numbers of people. And so it's not that you're deleting the referrals. It's just a different types of recommendations and referrals where it's more, you're reaching more people. Well, maybe to summarize, I think some reasons to kind of step out of the referral mindset to just expand it is what I would say, because I think, again, like I said, I think referrals are good, but as you have some growth, you can make a bigger impact. You can build a team around you to support you so you don't have to do anything. You can decrease the service. So it's just you, it just relies on you, and it has to be one-on-one to a more leveraged business model. And all those things enable you to have a way to impact the world with your work and your consciousness to greater scale. And so the caveat is, if you want to stay small and just serve a smaller number of people, we're not trying to force you one way or the other either. It's more that if you have a calling to expand, then go for it. We're just giving you different options. It's really for you to decide what the best path forward for you is. Any final thoughts here, Kylie?
I think that just about does it. Just as you transition hopefully you'll transition a bit from the referrals to more proactive marketing. Just take it one step at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't try to throw yourself into the fire. Just ask yourself, what are some actions I can take every single day that are going to move me from kind of passively building my business to being a little bit more proactive?
Well, thanks for listening, everybody, to the Conscious Marketer podcast. I really appreciate you. We try to give you some wisdom that you can use right away in your business and help you to shift your mindsets, and also give you some techniques along the way and interviews. We've been interviewing a lot of great people on this podcast. You can get all the show notes, all the links when we have them at consciousmarketer.com/podcast. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, give us a review. That really helps us out to spread our word. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.